Zaria stepped into the sunlight, squinting as her eyes adjusted. The warmth touched her skin differently than it had yesterday, almost as if it carried a blessing with it. She paused, letting the church door swing shut behind her. The soft click felt final, like something in her spirit had been sealed.
I don't want to lose this feeling.
The street was fully awake now, delivery vans squeezing into impossible spaces, a cyclist weaving between cars, the smell of fresh bread drifting from the bakery down the block. For a moment, she just stood there, letting the morning press against her. It wasn't heavy in the way it had been for weeks. This weight felt lighter, like the kind you could actually carry. Her sneakers tapped gently against the sidewalk as she began walking. The rhythm was steady, syncing with her thoughts.
One step at a time. Even if I don't know where I'm going.
She caught her reflection in a dusty shop window. She was wearing a plum hoodie with a high ponytail, and she had faint shadows under her eyes. She didn't look like someone who had it all together, but her gaze felt softer. She almost didn't recognize herself. Turning down a quieter side street, the city sounds began to fade until she caught something new, faint but distinct. It wasn't the slow, drawn-out hymns she remembered from childhood. This had a bounce, a groove, syncopated claps over warm bass, crisp snares, voices layering in harmony with a smooth R&B gospel edge.
That's different.
She slowed her pace, letting the beat carry her forward. The song's lyrics weren't begging for a breakthrough. They were celebrating one. Joyful, confident, a chorus declaring God's faithfulness like it was already done. She couldn't catch every word, but the vibe made her shoulders loosen without her permission.
I can feel this in my chest.
As she followed the sound past a row of brick apartments, she saw the source. An open window on the second floor, a speaker propped against the sill. Sunlight spilled through, catching in the steam of someone's morning coffee on the ledge. She kept walking, but the song stayed with her, looping in her head as if it had been placed there on purpose. She reached the small park from last night. The same bench was there, but in daylight it had lost its heaviness, just wood and metal now. She glanced at it, but didn't stop. Her feet had somewhere else to be, even if she didn't know the address. The leaves overhead shifted, breaking the sunlight into moving patterns across her path. She passed a newsstand, its headlines loud and urgent, but they didn't hook her the way they used to.
I'm not looking for trouble today.
A few blocks ahead, she spotted a corner cafe with a chalkboard sign out front. She hesitated. The last time she'd been in a coffee shop, the chatter felt too loud, the clinking cups too sharp, but something in her wanted to try again. The bell above the door chimed as she stepped inside. Warm air wrapped around her, laced with cinnamon and roasted espresso. The barista smiled from behind the counter, and Zaria ordered tea, her voice steadier than she expected. She carried the mug to a seat by the window and let the steam curl toward her face.
Peace feels new, like I have to reintroduce myself to it.
She sat in stillness for a while, fingers warming around the ceramic. Then she noticed that the cafe's playlist had switched songs, and there it was again, that same modern gospel R&B sound, layered harmonies, a bass line that moved like a heartbeat, lyrics that spoke in victory, not just survival. She leaned back against the chair, eyes half closed, letting the words wrap around her like a soft blanket. Her foot started tapping without her realizing it. She wasn't performing, she wasn't faking, she was just in it. The way the song slid from verse to chorus felt like her own story playing out from breaking apart to standing again.
Maybe God never stopped trying to get through to me. He just switched the station so I'd finally hear it.
She took a slow sip of tea, its heat filling her chest. Outside, the city blurred behind a thin veil of glass. Inside, the music kept playing, and for the first time in months, she didn't want to rush anywhere. She wanted to stay right here, letting each lyric remind her that healing wasn't just a hope, it was already in motion.
Maybe this is the first step back, and maybe I can keep walking.
The cafe was warm and quiet, a gentle contrast to the rush of the street outside. Zaria sat at a small corner table, both hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. The world beyond the glass moved in hurried lines and muted colors, but inside everything felt slower, softer. She could hear the low hum of conversation, the hiss of the espresso machine, and the occasional clink of ceramic mugs. The music playing over the speakers, not the kind that melted into the background, but a track that demanded attention without being loud. The beat was steady, confident, upbeat gospel with a new school twist, the kind that made even the stillest listener feel the urge to move. Zaria's head tilted slightly, her brow furrowing.
Why do I like this so much?
The melody wrapped itself around her, bright and bold. Then came the voice, rich, warm, and edged with a hint of rasp on the high notes. It carried joy, but didn't hide the scars it came from. Every lyric felt lived in. Her eyes drifted toward the window, but her mind was somewhere else entirely.
Why does this sound so familiar?
As the chorus swelled, something inside her caught. Memories flickered, long nights of whispered conversations, childhood summers, voices blending in kitchen sing-alongs. She could see the smile, the posture, the spark in the eyes. Something about the voice tugged at her.
Wait.
She leaned back, eyes narrowing slightly, focusing on the tone of the singer's voice. She knew that timbre, that slight rasp on certain notes, that smile you can hear in the way the words landed. Her chest tightened.
No way.
Her eyes lifted toward the small radio behind the counter, as if looking at it could confirm what her ears were telling her. The chorus hit, and suddenly she knew.
That's Charm.
Her cousin, who had been grinding for years, pouring her faith into songs that barely made it past open mics and small church events. The one who'd stayed up with her on nights when the world felt like too much, reminding her that God was still in the room. Her chest tightened.
No, it can't be.
Zaria blinked, stunned. Charm was on the cafe playlist, which meant Charm was on the radio, which meant she'd finally done it.
She really did it.
It was Charm, her cousin, the one who had chased this dream with faith that refused to die, even when the road was dark, the one she hadn't spoken to in so long. A slow, tearful smile tugged at her lips.
She really did it. She's on the radio.
Around her, strangers nodded their heads to the beat, completely unaware of the history in the voice they were hearing. Zaria stayed still, letting the sound sink deep. She could almost see Charm in the recording booth with her headphones on, eyes closed, pouring every ounce of herself into each note.
Leave it to Charm to make Faith sound like the best party you've ever been to.
When the song ended, the cafe's quiet returned. But for Zaria, the air still hummed. This was more than music. It was proof. Proof that God was still moving, still lifting, still making a way. And somewhere deep inside, a whisper formed. She would hear that voice again, not just through a speaker. Zaria stepped out of the cafe with her hands tucked deep into her hoodie pocket, the last notes of Charm's song still echoing in her chest. The late afternoon sun stretched across the sidewalk, turning the edges of buildings gold. People passed by in a rush, faces buried in phones, bags swinging at their sides, but for her, the street felt different now, slower, lighter. She walked without really knowing where she was headed, replaying the sound of Charm's voice in her mind.
I can't believe that was her. The same girl who used to make up silly remixes of church songs in Grandma's kitchen. The one who swore she'd keep singing even if the only audience was the mirror. And now, she's out here in the world.
The thought filled her with warmth, but it was tangled with something else, something heavier. She hadn't spoken to Charm in so long. Not because of a fight, but because life had pulled them in opposite directions. Between the breakup, the job she'd lost, and the numb days that followed, she had stopped answering calls from almost everyone. She told herself it was just until she felt more like herself again, but somewhere along the way she'd let silence settle in like a roommate. The music still echoed in her chest, every lyric replaying as if it refused to let go. She was still walking without any real direction, her mind circling the same thought. Charm was on the radio. Her cousin had done it.
I have to call her.
She crossed at the light and kept walking, her sneakers scuffing against the pavement.
What would I even say if I called her? Hey, sorry I disappeared for almost a year, but I just heard you on the radio?
She winced at the thought. It sounded small, not enough to bridge the gap. Still, there was a pull, a nudge, not a loud command, but the same kind of whisper she'd felt outside Grace Revival Church. That inward leaning, that quiet insistence. Call her. She shook her head.
I don't even know where she's living now,
she muttered under her breath, earning a glance from a man waiting at the bus stop. She smiled awkwardly and kept moving. A delivery truck rumbled past, bass from its speakers rattling the windows of a shop. Zaria barely noticed. Her mind was still in the cafe, still hearing the hook of that song. She could almost picture Charm recording it, shoulders swaying, eyes closed, the little bounce she always did when the beat hit just right.
She used to say gospel didn't have to sound like it came from a time capsule, that faith could dance. That's exactly what this song felt like.
The more she thought about it, the more she realized how much she missed that energy. Charm had always carried light into a room like she owned it, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that made you feel safe and seen. She wondered if Charm still laughed the same way, the kind that started small and then spilled out until everyone else joined in. Her phone felt heavy in her pocket. She slid it out, staring at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the contacts, scrolling slowly until she saw the name. Charm. It had been so long since she had tapped it. Too long. She hesitated, a dozen memories rushing in all at once. The laughter, the late-night talks, the way Charm always found a way to make even the worst days feel lighter. But her chest tightened, and she locked the screen again without calling.
God, if I'm supposed to do this, give me the right moment. Please.
She turned down a quieter side street, the kind where sunlight filtered through tree branches and the noise of the city dimmed to a soft hum. Her steps slowed. She noticed a small park ahead and wandered toward it, sitting on the edge of a bench. The air smelled faintly of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Somewhere in the distance, a radio played. She froze for a moment, straining to hear. It was faint, but unmistakable. The same upbeat gospel beat from the cafe. Charm's voice floated toward her again, carried by the breeze. Zaria's lips curved into a slow smile.
Twice in one day? You've got to be kidding me.
She leaned back on the bench, closing her eyes. It felt like confirmation, not a coincidence, not just a random playlist. It felt like God was circling her back to something she'd been avoiding for too long. When the song ended, she opened her eyes and took a deep breath.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm gonna call her.
The decision settled in her chest like a weight, but not the kind that crushed, the kind that anchored. She didn't have a plan, didn't know if Charm would even want to hear from her after all this time. But she knew this. She wasn't going to let another year go by wondering what could have been said. She swallowed and hit the call button. The ringtone filled her ear. Once, twice, 3 times. Her heart thudded faster with each pause. Then a voice answered, warm and familiar, like sunlight breaking through clouds.
Hello?
Zaria froze for half a second, her lips parting without sound. Then it came out.
Hey, it's me.